All right, so we're going to look at the workflow for a business that runs on two different applications. One is called Pool Tracker, which is a system that a pool operator, a swimming pool operator, would use to keep their swimming pools clean and also to run any retail stores that are part of their pool setup. And Vend is the point of sale that they use at those stores, the cashiers that run the stores and have to check out people. So for inventory management and the point of sale and payments function, Vend is used in the stores that are run by these businesses. So the first thing that needs to happen is when the business decides to use Pool Tracker and Vend, they would first need to go import their historical data from whichever point of sale they're using into Vend. So the way that it would do, and the way Shoppinpal specifically facilitates that process, is we have an automated way to import that data from any legacy system that they're using into any cloud-based system, such as a Vend or any other payments or specific app that they would use. All we would need is to build an API hook into the target system. And here as inputs, you see that there's three main criteria input files that are needed to go inside of Vend, which are the customer, product, and the sales history. And this is several years worth of data. So you would first start by bringing in customers and products and then move on to sales history. So what you see here is I've started the import workflow. I've just giving it some basic metadata, name, description, etc. And then I need to pick the source system. So once I've picked a source, which could be any legacy point of sale, and we would happen to know the formatting, the header format of that source system, then I go ahead and pick a destination system. And from that, I'm able to now say, I need to put in the invoice parent file or the line items file, right? So if I say I want to bring in the invoice headers, at that point, it's a simple mapping exercise, which we have predefined already because we happen to know that there's this legacy system, let's say Pronto, which needed to data from there, the sales data needed to go into Vend, and then accordingly, that is information we already have from the Vend API. So typically there's no need to change this mapping for the customer because this is something we already know between the two systems. And once that's set up, you're able to then just pull in additional settings around payment types, taxes, time zone, etc., and then run through the workflow. And by the end of it, you have X amount of data that's been imported. Now you see that there's a certain number of failures that could be because of some missing data, such as a tax rate that was not there for 3 years ago. And in that case, you would just take the file that errored out, input the tax rate and rerun it, and you'd be done. So once we've gone through that process, the next step, now that we have the basic data in the system, is to set up the integration or the sync between the two systems. And the way that happens is this workflow, which I'll take you through now. So the customer comes to this white label screen to say that, oh, Pool Tracker is now offering me a sync or integration with its partner systems. And this is, in fact, something that has been white labeled by us. So this is a Shoppinpal front end and back end that you see here, but it has been white labeled for Pool Tracker. So once the customer goes in here, they're able to pick the specific Vend account that they want to connect to and finish authentication, connect the accounts, and you see the result in the dashboard. And now, before the sync actually starts, what's important is if there is data that's customer and product data, for example, that's sitting on both sides, they need to be linked before you can actually go ahead and sync invoices and other things that contain customers and products. So we have a simple algorithm here that allows you to set a specific threshold. For example, if name, email, and address first line is matching, there's no need to review that. It's an auto match and the entries get linked. And so that's the whole scoring system that you see here. And most of the data is matched in this automatic way. For anything that is not a small data set where we are not able to find matches, the customer can, of course, search on each side and link that up manually. So there's these low probability matches which fall in that bucket. And once that's done, the same process can be repeated for customers as well as products. And you see here that there's entries now that exist on one side, which need to flow over to the other side. And those can be just pushed in with this create new option. So with this three-step process, the high probability, low probability, and then creation of new entries, you can now guarantee that all of the customers and products are now linked across both sides. And you can now actually move on to the pushing the invoice settings. So you need to set up a few things related to invoices. Once that's done, we're ready to go ahead and kick off the integration. Now, another slightly different model in which this is done is an example here of how our accounting integrations are used. So this is a leading payment system, for example, in the Bay Area, one of the top three payments companies. They use our accounting integrations. And what they have done is added in accounting integrations in the tab here. And then this UI you see here is actually an iframe that loads up from our system, which is running inside of their infrastructure. So for example, if I wanted to set up QuickBooks Desktop Sync, the merchant would just come into the accounting section and go through this workflow to set up QB Desktop inside of the product, the payment system itself, right? So they are not stepping away into some other third-party system to connect these two applications. So they're right inside the payment system, and this is an entire workflow that has been built by us and embedded inside of the payment system. So that's how we're fundamentally different, in that our front end, back end, everything can run as a container, can be dragged and dropped inside of the infrastructure and the code repositories of our partners, the SaaS providers themselves. So that is a variant of, it's up to the customer how they want to operate and use the system. Now, the one added benefit that comes up is once we are hooked up into any system, there's a range of applications that get enabled essentially for free. So one example of this is if you look at reporting, we have actually built out the ability to do custom reports by combining attributes from multiple systems. So this could be your pool tracker and when both attributes are brought in and shown to the customer. So this is a view that they otherwise will never get, because they are just have access to canned reports in either one of those systems. So they're able to pick out the attributes and then set up either instant runs or recurring ones, which is one of the very useful things that's used by customers of ours, like Daniel Wellington, who report sales data daily to malls using this setup. So you could go through this exercise, pick your systems, connect the accounts, set up additional filters. For example, this is a customer balance report, so you could set up various additional filters, date filters, and things related to those attributes. And the once that's done, you're then able to set this report, and it's been scheduled to run on a certain rhythm. So these are this is just one example of an application that gets enabled, but essentially there's an entire suite of them related to like stock replenishment and wholesale distribution, etc., that get plugged in once we have built out a new integration. So customers get benefit and access to these reports for extremely low monthly fees, which the SaaS providers themselves don't typically have any equivalent offering. So that's part of the value we create in the ecosystem.